Streaming. What's up, y'all? Hey, Sound Booth Theater live. Oh, we got Anderson kicking Vitor in the face there. That's what we want. How's everybody doing? I hope you're ready for a very short, but probably going to be fun Sound Booth Theater live. You never know. It is a stream after all. But I have a few audition type things to do. It's all LitRPG. And I'll tell you about it in just a second. Let me get all situated here. All right. Looks like everybody's sending their stuff. All right. So today, we're gonna visit a. Let me get my images ready here. First, we're going to go through a bit of Kingdom of Heaven, or I can't tell what the series name is here. Is the Skull Throne the series name, or is Kingdom of Heaven the series name? I think it's Kingdom of Heaven is the series name, so I think this one is called the Skull Throne. This is, I think, J.A. Cipriano's third LitRPG series. This one came out, I think, April. And the cover looks great. I remember when he first posted the cover. And yeah, I'm really excited to be working with J.A. Cipriano because I've seen his name around for a couple years now. He does a lot of urban fantasy, which is another genre that I specialize in. But, you know, a lot of these bigger name authors are starting to move over a little bit towards LitRPG, and I'm glad for it because LitRPG needs a little more of a high profile as far as that goes. A little more experienced writers writing for the genre would bring up, I think, the quality overall. And I'm glad that Cipriano is doing that. So we just made the deal today. Probably, I think mid-September is when I'm starting on this one, and I'm actually going to be working on this one and book 2. He didn't tell me what the title of book 2 was. This one and book 2 at pretty much simultaneously, like back to back. So they're both going to come out basically the same time. We may spread out the releases, not sure. You know, it could be better for marketing to do it that way, just so there's 2 separate events. But that is on my books now. So mid-September, expect, well, I guess it'll be being released mid-October. Also, today we're going to be visiting Reternity Online by Baron Sword. Now, this is just going to be basically an audition for both of us, really, because I haven't taken a look at this book yet. It is LitRPG. It seems to have done fairly well on the Kindle market. It's got, let's see, I think Ramon gave it a 7. Was it a 6 or a 7, Ramon? I don't remember. But it looks promising. It looks interesting. So we're going to take a visit of that. Actually, Baron sent me something very particular for me to read. I'll read you his directions once we get to it. And then we're visiting Resurgence by Joshua W. Nelson. What's funny is one of my best friends is also named Josh Nelson, so this is a little confusing for me. A guy I knew from, like, forever. I mean, like, we've been friends since grade school, so it's funny to see his name on a book. But he would be a Josh B. We have the same middle name, Benjamin. He would be Josh B. Nelson. This guy's Joshua W. Nelson, so at least there's that to keep my brain straight. But this one got really good reviews. It's, I think, got 90 ratings, and it's still selling quite well. He's already got a sequel out. So this is another instance where we're both kind of auditioning for each other. And, you know, I just like giving, even if I'm not going to be working with an author in particular, not saying that I'm not going to with these last 2, but I like the idea of, even if I don't get a job from someone that I audition for, I like the idea that I'm giving them a little bit of exposure here on the show. You know, you guys who come here regularly, you get to watch, you get to maybe see something of a book that you've seen around but haven't really sampled yet. So I like to give you guys just little previews to other people's work. And hopefully that endears me to the rest of the community who I'm not working directly for. So, anyway, before we get started, I'm going to do just a little bit of advertising. Fantasy Online Hyperborea is still out on Kindle. Let's see. We should be shipping out with this one on Friday. Saturday at the latest. So 2 weeks from Saturday, expect Fantasy Online to be available on Audible. And go to harmoncooper.com, get yourself a Mythifickers t-shirt or Morning Assassin t-shirt. What else? He's got an Instakill t-shirt too. Definitely get that one. Instakill's all over Fantasy Online. I had so much fun recording this book. It's almost done. It's just going through the mastering and proofing and everything like that, so I may have to do some retakes tomorrow. But once I'm done with that, it'll be cleaned up and ready to ship out. So we got Hiccup the Goblin, he was such a delight to play through the whole book. What's up, Baron? He's the originator of the fic word that I posted something on Facebook. And by the way, if you check out my post, you'll see that there's a little sample of Hiccup arguing with the Ink Shadow on Fantasy Online. And then there's Feetwix, who's actually the middle guy pictured there, who, to my surprise, became kind of like the listener favorite. Like my proofer and Harmon himself tell me that that he's their favorite to listen to because he's just so out there, so much energy, so positive and goofy. So yeah, expect this one to be really good, guys, and watch out for when it comes out. Another 2 weeks or so. Let's see. Speaking of Harmon Cooper, the Feedback Loop series is now up to book 3 on Audible. By the way, anyone here, anyone watching on Facebook, anyone watching on YouTube, if you come to my Twitch channel and you say something in the chat about wanting a free audiobook, you got it. I got 5 audiobooks I'm going to be giving out. This happens every Wednesday, guys. So make sure to come follow me on Twitch and say something in the chat if you want something. Feedback Loop is available. And because today is a LitRPG day, just anything out of my library that's LitRPG requested in the chat, and I'll get in contact with you, and I'll make sure I get you a code. So the Feedback Loop books 1 through 3 are available on Audible, and if you don't know, the Feedback Loop is actually sort of like a prequel to the Fantasy Online book that Harmon just released. So definitely check it out because it stars, the narrator is actually Quantum Hughes, who gets mentioned in Fantasy Online. But Quantum is by far my favorite character to perform from Harmon Cooper's universe. And I get to narrate all the books by him, as him. So if you want to hear me doing a very different type of voice as the narrator, check these out. Very fast-paced, very funny books, but also not just funny. It's deep as well, you know, and lots of social commentary. It's set in a future that's been sort of where the government and corporations have all basically combined into one entity and are basically just... Why am I having the door closed already? I don't think I need the door closed at all, maybe. Do you guys mind if the door's not closed? Let me know if the door being open is a problem for you guys, and I'll close it. But yeah, lots of social commentary with these corporations and the government combined and kind of, what's the word, micromanaging everyone's lives. And there's a lot of humor in that, but also like a deep kind of, a deep commentary, I guess. I don't know how else to put it. But not only does does Harmon do a good job of creating interesting worlds for people to play in, for the characters to play in the Proxima Galaxy. But the real world is interesting as well, and the books go back and forth between the real world and the RPG worlds nearly seamlessly. You know, it just continues to be interesting all the way through, and that's probably my favorite thing that any lit RPG can do, is weave those two together. So, Feedback Loop series available on Audible. And let's see, I think... Oh, yes, the Hell's Rejects. That's another thing I wanted to advertise, because next week, not quite, I'm still a little bit behind, but I'm catching up. Sometime next week, I'm going to be starting Book 4 of the Chaos and the Covenant series by M.R. Forbes. Books 1 and 2 and 3 are all already available. Where's Book 2? Here we go. Fire and Brimstone. I haven't... Oh, sorry. I didn't switch it over. Yeah, Hell's Rejects and Fire and Brimstone and The Devil's Due are the 3 that are available now on Audible. This is all space opera sci-fi, but it's not as epic as a lot of space operas are. It's more concentrated on one group of people, one small crew. It kind of reminds me of Firefly a bit, but just grittier and probably on the same level of funny, right? I've always likened M.R. Forbes to Joss Whedon, and this series definitely shows that resemblance as well. So go check those out, guys. Those are all selling quite well. Delvers LLC, the last thing I will shill here. Obligations Incurred is now available on Audible. It's selling like crazy right now, so go see what everyone's going wild about. Actually, this is book 2, so if you haven't read Blaise Corvin's first Delvers LLC, Welcome to Ludus, pick that up first. And, of course, if you haven't requested an audiobook here before, this is a good place to start, Delvers LLC. So, yeah, I think that's it. That's all the shilling. Sorry, guys. I have to do it. I have to. Because if you want to support this show, you got to buy my audiobooks. I can't keep doing this if you don't buy audiobooks. So, here goes. We're going to start with Kingdom of Heaven, the Skull Throne, whichever comes first, I don't know. You didn't get the Twitch notification? Well, looks like people are watching. Truffle Guy says, if you leave the door open, then they might come in and steal my soul. Well, that's a risk I'm willing to take. Alright. So, Skull Throne / Kingdom of Heaven. Alright, so... I asked Mr. Cipriano if he could give me some character direction. And he said part of the fun of watching the show is watching me try and figure it out. So, message gotten. Message received. I will try to figure it out as I go. This is first person. I'm assuming it's the dude that's on the cover. He looks pretty intense. So I'm going to have to come up with some kind of intense... And you know what? The more lit RPGs that I do, especially in first person, the more I have to start coming up with new voices. Because I like the idea of grabbing up all these books in the same genre, right? But I don't want it all to sound the same, right? I want to capture the characters as well as possible and make them sound as different from each other as possible across different series and across different authors. I mean, especially if I'm doing 2 different series by the same author and they're both first person. I don't think I've encountered that yet, at least with the lit RPG stuff. But if I'm going to be narrating 2 different series with a first person narrative and they're completely different stories, then the characters need to sound the same, or sound different. Well, let's see. I'm working on Hero of Thera now. That's first person. And actually, if you guys remember, on the Sound Booth Theater Live that I did for Hero of Thera, I was using the actor for Connor Knight from Dead of Night. I was using him as the narrator for Hero of Thera. But as I started recording, I just didn't feel like it fit the character very well. So I went back with Eric. I retried a few times, and I nailed his voice finally, and I think it felt better. So you'll be hearing, when Hero of Thera comes out, you'll be hearing pretty much a brand new actor that I had to develop specifically for this book. I mean, I'm sure I've used him in bits here and there throughout all the years of me doing audiobooks, but I've never really used him as a main character. So I'm really happy about that. I found that character. But what else first person? Feedback loop, right? Quantum Hughes. So, see, this is going to be, I mean, he's very distinct. You can tell when I'm doing his voice, and if I were to narrate something else with this voice, you would just be thinking of Quantum Hughes if you've already listened to the Feedback Loop series. So, I can't do that. I can't play as Quantum. I can't use Quantum's voice to play this guy, especially since it doesn't really seem like it would fit. But, I mean, I don't know, maybe Connor would work for this one. Maybe I'll repurpose Connor for Cipriano's series. I'm pretty sure that Cipriano listened to Dead of Night, so maybe he wouldn't like that. You should just do Gabriel St. Martin. Well, I don't know, maybe. I haven't narrated a book like this before. The last time I actually auditioned with this voice for a first-person book for Domino Finn, and I didn't get the part, so I've been kind of shy about trying this voice for a first-person book. I really like it. If you don't know, I got this voice from listening to Kirk, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Acevedo? Deadman, that's it. It was for Deadman that I auditioned with Gabriel St. Martin's voice. For Reboot, I tried a couple different voices that I don't know. He didn't like them either. Domino. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes, you know, I take shots and they just don't work. But this voice, I don't know. A whole first-person narrative with him, I'd like to try it. You know, I really like this voice. But, maybe, do you think that fits for that guy's face? Listen, I mean, the guy's intense. Maybe. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Gabriel St. Martin. I'm going to close it up, because hearing the echo myself is just really distracting. Oh, let me get some water. Hello, Flair, by the way. Do I know you? Do I know you, Flair? Remember, if you're just tuning in, if you're on Facebook or if you're on YouTube, come on over to the Twitch channel. If you want a free audiobook, you can say something in the chat, and I will acknowledge you, and I will remember your name, and I'll send you a message on Twitch if I don't know you on Facebook or whatever, and I'll get you a free audiobook. I'm giving out 5 today, and anything from my LitRPG series. So that's, I got J.A. Oh, gotcha. What's up? What's up, Jason? Okay, so from the author himself, try Gabriel St. Martin. I'm doing it. Not a problem. Yeah, so if, yeah, I got Jeff Sproul's Paragons. I got Delvers LLC. I got Blaze's other series, Secret of the Old Ones. I got the Feedback Loop series. I think that's all that's available right now. Wait, one more. Other Life Dreams, of course. By the way, super sales for superheroes was submitted 9 days ago. So any time now, any day, that's going to be out. If you want to save your credit for that, you can. I don't mind. All right. Here goes. Gabriel St. Martin. I've been looking forward to trying this guy's voice out as a narrator. I can't believe it, bro. Seriously, this is off the chain. Cipriano asks, how the hell do you do like 12 different women? Well, lots of stamina. I don't know. I wouldn't know. That's a terrible joke. All right. Chapter 1. I never expected to reach the tunnel tonight. We'd looked for this thing for days, maybe a couple of weeks even, with no luck. We'd come all the way from the barren lands across the narrow straits and right into the heart of the coast. I thought it was a fool's errand, of course. The Tunnel of Enlightenment wasn't even officially part of the landscape, but Ember had heard whisperings about it on some of the message boards and thought our little guild had the right mix of people to find it. I couldn't blame him. Other than myself, the 5 people who made up the Avenging Angels Guild were far from noobs. By the time I joined, this group had known each other for a while and made a name for themselves as one of the top 50 guilds in Kingdom of Heaven. They were tight and more than a little cliquish, but when their resident knight took some promotion that moved him to Bangladesh and really screwed up his hours, they needed a replacement. Meanwhile, I was a freaking phenom, kicking demon ass and raking in experience points like a sailor on leave. I'd have been a fool to pass up the invitation Ember offered me just a couple of months ago, especially considering it had led me here, to the Tunnel of Freaking Enlightenment. I can't believe it, bro, I said, looking over at Ember. Seriously, this is off the chain! As a level 70 soul wizard, the red glowing runes signifying his stature were etched all over his skin like fancy fluorescent tattoos. His eyes matched those runes as he looked over at me. With intensity and pride beaming off his face, he was our stoic leader. I know, dude, right? He answered. Cheers erupted over the group chat. This is one thing I love about this genre, is that, like, you can get a description of this, ancient wizard with, like, magic coming off of him, and, like, he's glowing, and he's, like, looking all epic, and then he says, I know, dude, right? It's fucking hilarious. Okay, Glimmer. Calm down, Glimmer said over the line. In the short time I'd been part of the Avenging Angels, I'd come to know her not only as our resident healer, but as the smart-ass voice of reason, too.
If this place really is what you think it is, then we need to be careful. There's probably a big-ass monster waiting in the wings.
The thing I loved the most about Kingdom of Heaven was the complexity of the world. The whole gist of the place was that it was sort of a realm where people go after they die. In it, they could become anything they wanted. Awesome sauce magic user, whip smart healer, awesome sauce magic. I think I said awesome sauce magic. Awesome sauce magic user, whip smart healer, uber strong barbarian, and any players experienced enough to actually get up there would dwell. What? Oh, I see. It was also where you'd find the principalities, the mythical angel overlords of... the mythical... Sauce Mage, level 77. The mythical angel overlords of this game who, as per plot requirements, rule over this place with iron fists and winged backs. I don't know. Jason, how's it working out so far? Of course, no one any of us had ever heard from had ever actually gone to this place. A couple of people on the message boards had talked about it, but they were always called out and proven to be frauds. Still, it was kind of cool to think we might actually get there one day. A place where weapons the likes of which we'd never encountered were on every corner, and potions meant to give us unlimited health and strength were said to exist. There was also a lower level, but that place sucked, or so I'd heard from the message boards. You could get there through any common portal. Not that you'd want to. It was the standard flame-filled shithole you got in all your Sunday school pamphlets. All it lacked was the cartoon devil. Luckily, there were more than enough pitchfork-carrying NPC demons to make up for that. Glim looked around, her long braid of red hair swinging as she moved to check the brush around the clearing where we now found ourselves. So it's me to serve the spaghetti lord. Oh, man. You'd know, wouldn't you, Truffle Guy? Don't be like that, Glim, I told her. You know this is the place. We had to cut down a horde of winged demons just to get to this. Okay. I'm very used to saying winged. I think if I were, like, just a regular narrator, I think if it was third-person narrator, I could get away with it. But I think a character like this guy would not say winged. He'd probably say winged. But that's how I pronounce it. That's how I pronounce the... Because winged, to me, just feels weird. We had to cut down a horde of winged demons just to get to this field, not to mention the 6 hours and 12 energy boosts Ice went through just to punch through this barrier. I looked over at our barbarian, Ice. With a fur pelt around his chest and a skimpy-ass loincloth around his waist, he was like something out of a Swords and Sandals flick. Swords and Sandals? What is that? You'd have never thought Ice was actually my friend Barry, a ginger coding major who looked a lot more like Conan O'Brien than Conan the Barbarian in real life. Besides, if a BAM is out here, let me take care of him. I pulled out my soul sword and smiled. It was still shiny and had that new weapon smell. The runes etched into the blade glistened. I had been itching to use this thing ever since I'd found it last week during our ill-fated trip down Magellan's Well. Excuse me. Beach-going LARPers? Oh, no, we're in a LitRPG, man. We're in a virtual world here.
Boys and their swords.
Glimmer shook her head. Our attention turned back to the tunnel. Ice had worked through the afternoon and half of his evening class to punch a hole in the barrier so we could get inside. He had been successful, but there was no telling how long said hole would stay open. We needed to move quickly, but we also needed to be smart. We wouldn't have many chances at this, especially given Ice's big mouth on the forums. Hell, he had probably already spilled the beans. At best, we had tonight before his tales of our adventures sent every 2-bit guild from here to the River of Eternal Flame out of his way looking for glory that should rightfully be ours. What? Beach-going BGLs? Beach-going LARPers. Did I say something that sounded like beach-going LARPers? Hand-to-hand in the front. Magic and long range in the back, Ember said, his voice exuding confidence. And Glimmer, you keep your distance at first. I don't know what the hell's going to be down here, but something tells me we'll need your healing hands intact if we want a chance at making it out of here with the emerald. Okay, Blackthorn. Okay, he's an archer. Okay. The obvious choice here is Chase. But I think I want to try something else. You know, okay, so I used, David Byrne. I used David Byrne in, Sigil Online, Paragons. as one of the characters. And I haven't used him since. So this might be, I don't know, he's a little too bubbly though for an archer type character. And I'm already using like a kind of whispery voice for the main character. Blackthorn. Let's go. Okay, it says, Blackthorn, our archer with a long scraggly beard and a penchant for cursing when it really wasn't necessary, chimed it? What? Oh, chimed it, okay. That dude has like 3 lines in this book, okay. Alright, are we gonna like lose this entire party or something after the first chapter? The Emerald of Isis! Blackthorn, our archer with a long scraggly beard and a penchant for cursing when it really wasn't necessary, chimed it. Call it what it is, dude. It's the Emerald of fucking Isis. My heart skipped a couple of beats as I heard the words over the chat line. Like the Tunnel of Enlightenment, the Emerald of Isis didn't officially exist. Though, if it did, it would contain the power to access the Celestial Peak, the highest point in all of Kingdom of Heaven. All the power needed to sit on the Skull Throne, all the power needed to shoot us from top 50 to top 1. And it was about to be ours. Alright, This is giving me an erection, I said, and all of us laughed.
You're disgusting,
Glimmer added, though I could hear the smile in her voice too. I might be, he answered, but I'm about to be disgusting and powerful. He pulled the axe from the strap across his back and got into position. Let's go, avenging angels, Ember said, lifting his hands toward the sky and letting it light up with a flourish of red energy. Hell yeah, I grinned. Let's go. And then the world went black. Looking up from the screen, I saw Amanda standing there, my 3-month-old nephew in one hand, my power cord in the other, and a look on her face that would have single-handedly caused my testicles to retreat back into my body if I wasn't so pissed off right now. Ah, no, not advertisements. What are you doing? I cried, my eyes wide. You know my battery is fried! Put that back in! What are you saying, Iron Jack? Ember asked from over the group chat. Why aren't you moving, dude? You're going to throw off our entire balance. Group dynamic is key. I know group dynamic is key. Don't you think I know that? I answered, perhaps too loudly. My stupid sister accidentally unplugged my HP, and my battery is shit. I'm going to have to reboot. Damn it, he mumbled. Just get back as soon as you can. Hopefully the barrier to the tunnel will still be open. On it, I said, as Amanda dropped the power cord before ripping the earpiece right out of my skull. You know, in a loving way. What the hell, Amanda? I asked again, looking up at her and reaching for my power cord.
Don't you dare turn that thing back on,
she said, giving me the same no-nonsense look I got after I asked her if it would be okay to drop her off at the ER and swing back in a couple of hours. The day she went into labor, which, to be fair, happened on Super Bowl Sunday, or when I suggested Wick as her son John's middle name. I thought it would have been so cool. I'm almost finished, I said, holding my hand out and fully expecting her to drop my earpiece into it. She didn't do what was expected.
I asked you to get diapers 2 hours ago,
she said in one of those rushed huffs women do that send men running for the nearest bridge to hide under. I stammered, realizing that if I'd ever heard her at all, I'd completely forgotten. I'll get them in just a few minutes.
I already got them,
she snapped, tapping her foot at me. Oh, I said, narrowing my eyes. Well, good. Problem solved.
No,
she answered, talking loudly enough that the idea she was going to wake the baby up didn't seem out of the question.
"The problem is most certainly not solved."
"But you got the diapers," I said, honestly more confused than I probably should have been.
"The diapers weren't the problem," she answered,
taking deep breaths to calm herself down, which was even more frightening than when she wasn't calm.
"The fact I managed to leave this apartment, pack the baby in the car, go get the diapers, take the baby out of the car, and come back into this apartment without you even being aware I did is the problem."
She ground her teeth together.
"And it's not the first time it's happened, Jack."
I looked up at her, all 5'3" of brunette and brooding terror, and said the thing I had basically trained myself to say since the day our no-account mother ran out on us 7 years ago and turned me into the only family Amanda had left in the world, the cure-all I depended on with about as much frequency as I depended on oxygen.
"I'm sorry."
"Not good enough," she said, shaking her head. She turned and walked away. Okay, well, that was new. Pulling my computer off my lap and pushing the idea of the tunnel just barely out of the forefront of my mind, I stood to follow her. "Come on, Amanda! I didn't mean anything by it," I pleaded. She turned around, her eyes blazing with the kind of bright fury which, up to this point, I had only seen while looking directly into the sun.
"You didn't mean anything?"
she roared. "Okay, so that wasn't the right thing to say," I said, holding my hands out in front of me and displaying the universal sign of, "I give up, please don't hurt me."
"Oh, I think it was the perfect thing to say, Jack." "Oh, I think it was the perfect thing to say, Jack Hammer," she spit out at me, twisting her mouth disgustedly. "You didn't mean anything, because you never mean anything. All you care about is that damned game."
"Iron Jack," I corrected in a small voice.
"I don't care what they call you," she hissed.
Hissed.
"I don't care what they call you,"
she hissed. She hissed.
"Just like you don't seem to care about us."
I ran a hand through my sandy hair, blinking hard and trying to keep myself calm and steady. There was absolutely no way my sister could have meant that. I worked 2 damned jobs all the way through high school just to make sure she could afford Hollister. While all my friends went out on dates during the weekend, I worked, serving their food while on those dates. And this was the thanks I got for it. "I said I was sorry," I said as coolly as I could muster. "If you want me to go get more diapers, I'll go get more diapers. If you want me to pick you up some ice cream, I'll do that too. Whatever you need," I muttered under my breath. "Maybe some Midol." Her face instantly got as red as a hot pepper. So, it wasn't quite as under my breath as I'd have liked, it seemed.
"You just couldn't help yourself, could you?"
she said, shaking her head.
"You just had to get the last word. You had to ruin the only halfway decent gesture you've shown me in months."
I really don't like this lady. "That's not what I was doing," I said, walking toward her. "I was being serious. I think you might need them. You're not acting like yourself. Have you even stopped to look at the calendar?"
"Have you?"
she responded, a couple of short steps away from exploding.
"It's February 26th. My cycle is in the middle of the month. Not that it's any of your business."
She pursed her lips together.
"And even if it wasn't, this has nothing to do with biology and everything to do with you being an asshat."
She stomped toward me, bridging the gap.
"I get that you're probably stressed. You have finals in 2 weeks. You have a job you have to keep up in the evening, and you've got us. I know at 21 you didn't ask to help raise a kid with your screw-up sister and no college degree."
"I never said you were a screw-up," I answered, looking at her and seeing tears in her eyes.
"You're right,"
she said, nodding firmly.
"But you don't have to say it. I can see it when you look at us. We're a weight around your neck, and I don't blame you for wanting to escape, I guess."
She looked down at the computer.
"I guess I'd escape too if I could."
"That's not fair," I answered. The entire idea of what she'd just said sent little shocks through my heart. "You're my family. I promised you when we were kids I'd always look out for you." I nodded firmly. "And that goes for the little booger. And that goes for the little booger, too." I looked down at John. She laughed hard, a bitter, cold laugh.
Do you even know when you're lying? I'm not, I said. I was more than sure I was telling the truth. Amanda, Nope, she said, shaking her head. When I got pregnant, you were horrified. You were horrified too, I reminded her. No one told you to have sex with a Nickelback stagehand. I shook my head. What the hell were you even doing at a Nickelback concert in the first place? It was supposed to be ironic, she answered. Yeah, I said, looking down at John again. It definitely is. I sighed loudly. I want to help, Amanda. You're not some horrible mess I feel obligated to clean up. I shrugged. I just need an outlet sometimes, you know? Because this isn't the way you thought your life was going to turn out. Right, I answered. And it's not the way you wanted your life to turn out, she continued. Yeah. Wait, I said. And because you feel like we're ruining things for you, she said, shaking her head. You don't have to lie about it, Jack. I already know. You're putting words in my mouth, I said sternly. I never said any of that. John means a lot to me, and I'm happy to have you guys here. She shook her head furiously. If that was true, you wouldn't want to get away from here so badly. You wouldn't spend every waking minute of your life pretending to be somewhere else. Pretending to be someone else. That's not it at all, I said, looking from Amanda to John and back again. Suddenly, a really serious tint filled the air. This wasn't just some fight. At least not for her. She turned around, walked to the kitchen table, and grabbed my phone. You got a call earlier. You didn't hear it, of course, so I answered. And then I went through it. My brows knitted together. So? Who is she? Amanda asked, pulling up a photo and turning my screen around so I could see it. Before me lay a bright image of a curvy winged woman with violet eyes, wearing a string bikini and holding the mace of justice. Origina? Origina? I asked, biting my bottom lip. She's like the Guardian of the Void. She's in the... Yeah, Jack, obviously she's in the game, and there's nothing wrong with there being a picture of an angel with her tits hanging out on your phone, I guess. Except that she's not real. The breath caught in my throat. I know she's not real, Amanda. She's a character in the game. And why is that, Jack? Why isn't she real? I totally don't understand what you're saying, I said, as confused as hell. She's not real because she's not. The same way the Tooth Fairy isn't real. She should be, Amanda said quickly. Not the comically top-heavy angel girl, but someone. There should be a real-life girl on your phone, Jack. I want that for you. You've waited to have a life long enough. She blinked back tears. I know everything you did for me. I get it, and when I got into college, that was supposed to be the end of it. You were supposed to be free. And what happened? I went and got myself knocked up and screwed you in the process. She shook her head. No more. I'm not going to hold you hostage for 18 years just because I got drunk and frisky one night. You deserve a life, and you deserve for it to start right now. You're being dramatic, I said, taking a deep breath. This is about diapers and a video game. She walked back toward me, thrusting my phone into my chest. I want you to leave. What? I asked, sure I had misheard. I want you to get out, Jack. I need to set you free of this. You deserve that, she said, unable to keep blinking back the tears and letting them roll down her cheeks. Amanda, I gasped. You're being stupid. If I wanted to leave, I would. Let me make my own decisions, okay? I wish I could. She nodded and marched toward the door. With her baby somehow still asleep in her arms, she pulled the door open. She motioned toward it. But you wouldn't. You'd throw yourself on the sword for John and me. And I won't let you anymore. Go get a girlfriend. Play with your friends. And don't worry about diapers. Please, Jack. Please. Just go. She blinked back barely contained tears. Now.
Amanda's eyes were almost unreadable to me now. The only sensation I could decipher from them was exhaustion. Complete and utter exhaustion. "What am I supposed to do?" I asked, shrugging as I stared back at her. "Where am I supposed to go?"
"That's the beautiful thing, Jack. You're free. You could go anywhere you want. Maybe even Kingdom of Heaven," she said, and shut the door in my face. Then John started crying.
All right, so that's it. That's the opening of the book. I really liked that. It's fucking excellent. So yeah, the book, unlike most LitRPGs, starts off extremely human. Real-world problems. I'm really excited to get started on this one now. Too bad it's mid-September that it's going to be, but Jason, thanks for letting me read that live, and thanks for hitting me up to narrate it for you. I hope you guys are excited for that as well. So that is Skull Throne, Kingdom of Heaven. And when did you say that the book 2 is coming out? End of July? Excuse me. And Gabriel's fine for that role, right? I'm excited to narrate with that voice, because I've only done it a little bit for another book I did called Emissary, which is extremely good, but didn't get any attention when it came out. But that one's a multiple point of view book, so he was just one of the narrators. But I'm excited to do another one, like a full book, well, a full series looks like with him. So that was Kingdom of Heaven, and on to Reternity Online by Baron Sword. By the way, if you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're just tuning in on Twitch, you can come to Twitch. Well, if you're already here from Twitch, you don't need to. You can stay right there. But you can come to Twitch, and you can request a free audiobook, because I'm giving them out every Wednesday. I always give out free audiobooks, 5 every Wednesday. So if you say something in the chat, I'm giving away anything from my LitRPG library. So either one of the Delvers LLC books, anything from the Feedback Loop series, anything from Other Life Dreams series. I always want to call it the Other Life series, but it's actually called the Selfless Hero trilogy. Sigil Online, Paragons. Oh, no. I'm reading your notes, don't worry. Or Secret of the Old Ones, or I feel like I'm missing something. Harmon, Blaze, Jeff, William. Okay, that's it so far. That's all I got on Audible right now, but there's still plenty coming up. Request any of those guys, and I'll get it to you. All right, so I'm going to read some of Baron's. Oh, here we go. Armagus has requested something from the Feedback Loop series. So I'll keep you in mind. I'll come get you after the show. Okay. Characters. 1. Frightened but strong woman menaced by 2. Horrible villainous men, one tall, the other fat, with a gravelly voice. Okay. 1. Dark evil being, yay, and his undead flying mount. Ooh! Both have a Lovecraftian stature, and that is sanity-shattering and infinitely frightening in the extreme. Yes! Pure evil. If you didn't know, if any of you didn't know, pure evil is my bag. I'm real good at that. Overall tone. The exposition passages that are Emily's thoughts are that of a confident young woman. The descriptive passages of action and setting should drip dark menace and have a poetic rhythm we can taste in our mouths. All right. Dialogue. The in-game dialogue from the tall man and fat man should sound somewhat stock fantasy, because on first appearance they seem to be stock fantasy villains we're watching in a fantasy movie. By stock, I mean that vaguely British, but not actually British RPG accent. Not sure what that sounds like exactly. LOL. Just not normal American speech. Gotcha. You know, I'm probably just going to go full-on British, because at this point, it's easier that way for me. The private chat dialogue at the end of the scene between players Smokey Loki and Frank the Gank, who play the tall man and fat man characters in-game but don't sound like them in real life, should be that of everyday young American gamers who are just a little bit annoying and share a love of PvP violence. Okay. Alright, so maybe I will do a fake British then. Like a obviously fake British. Oh, that's right, and he sent me a Moby too. That's awesome. Oh no, hold on a second. Alright, so Baron, do you want me to start from the prologue? Just from the very beginning? And is that... Let's see, how long is the prologue? Oh, okay. Never mind. You sent everything that I needed. Okay, cool. Alright, here goes. Reternity Online by Baron Sword. Prologue. Mind locked. Friday. Now, hold on a second. Let me make sure. Make damn sure. Okay, I got it. Friday, March 13th, 2037. Reternity Online. In-game. The Dark Kingdom. Outskirts of the Deadlands. Lightning cracked, cutting a bright wound through the midnight darkness, revealing dead trees in every direction. The trunks were all blackened and twisted, the branches leafless and lifeless. Seconds later, thunder rumbled. Rain started to fall.
Please, let me go.
Emily mumbled to the two men who wore chain armor and carried swords on their hips. Strapped to her head was an iron muzzle with a spiked bit that jutted into her mouth, making any speech painful at best and bloody at worst. Emily recognized the device from high school history class as a witch's bridle. She'd never imagined she or any 21st century woman would be imprisoned in such a barbaric torture device, but she was. When she spoke again, her voice trembled with barely contained fear. She tried not to gag as she carefully said the words.
I don't want to do this.
You don't have any choice, the tall man said, squeezing her elbow hard. Bolts of pain shot up her arm. Get moving, the fat man with the gravelly voice said. No need to rush her. We should enjoy her some before we deliver her.
Deliver?
Emily demanded. Pain lanced her tongue as the iron spike in the bit skewered it. She tasted blood and winced before saying more calmly,
Where are you taking me?
Crack! The tall man smacked the back of her head with the palm of his leather glove, knocking her off balance. Emily stumbled forward and collapsed in a heap in the cold mud and wet leaves. She lay motionless, overwhelmed by pain as frigid rain soaked completely through her white peasant's dress. She was too shocked to notice her shivering. Behind her, the fat man laughed harshly. "I told you she looked better on her knees." Emily felt sudden rage flood her veins. Her fingers closed around a broken branch half hidden beneath the leaves. She flattened her tongue into her lower jaw in anticipation, protecting it from the bridle spike. Distant lightning flickered momentarily, cutting through the midnight gloom. A moment later, all was once again dark. "Get up!" the tall man grunted as he planted his boot on her butt and shoved. "We don't have all night." Emily tightened both hands around the branch, waiting for the coming thunder. When it boomed, she jumped up and spun in one fluid motion. The ragged end of the branch smashed into the tall man's face, spraying blood and teeth. Dazed, he flailed backward, knocking the fat man aside before sitting down hard. "You're gonna regret that," the fat man growled gruffly. He stood and drew his sword with a delicious slowness. For a split second, Emily considered taking a swing at him with the branch, but thought better of it. He already had his sword out and held it like he knew how to use it. Worse, the sword shone with a toxic black energy that looked poisonous. Emily turned and ran, still holding the branch. Between the heavy rain and night darkness, she could barely see her own feet. The only thing that kept her from tripping over every last jagged rock and gnarled root in her path was the black energy shining behind her. "The more you run, the more I like it," the fat man shouted with acid happiness. She dropped her branch and bunched her peasant dress in her hands, pulling it up high enough to give her knees freedom to move. Hard rain pelted her face. The spike in her bridle poked painfully into her tongue, no matter how she tried to avoid it. She angled down a slope, slipped on wet leaves, caught herself, and kept going. Her breath burned in her chest and her heart pounded in her ears as she gasped for air. She couldn't keep running over the unforgiving terrain much longer, but the man with the poisonous sword was right behind her. Oops, I missed. Who's got the sword? I think it's him. I think it's the short one. "Run, my little rabbit! Run!" He laughed. Emily stifled a whimper and clambered up a wet hill, grabbing at the ground, trying to go faster. She crested the rise and pumped her legs. On the flat plateau, hundreds of dead trees were laid out in rows like tombstones in a graveyard. In a graveyard. She cut left and ran. She cut left and right at random. Trying to put as many obstacles as she could between her and her attacker. Despite her all-consuming fear, she couldn't suck enough air into her lungs to continue. She slowed to a walk and risked a quick glance behind. The toxic black glow was barely visible off to her left. Had she lost them? Maybe she had. She hunched over and concentrated on walking as quietly as possible, trying to blend in with the surrounding trees by mimicking their broken posture. Would it work? Could she somehow hide amongst the trees by pretending to be one herself? Or could she keep going? Keep going. "Not so fast!" the tall man hissed, his sword point poking her throat. His blade glowed blue. It was icy cold against her skin. She froze, eyes wide. His face was torn and bloody from where she'd struck him. "On your knees," he grunted. Her last shred of defiance flared, and she stared him down, ignoring the throbbing of her bloodied tongue.
"No! You can't do this! It's against the rules of the game!"
"Is it?" He smiled savagely, his torn mouth revealing freshly broken teeth reddened by blood. Magically, his skin reknit and his leaning teeth straightened in their sockets, no longer fragmented shards. The hard rain washed away all the blood. His face now wore the same perfectly evil scowl from before.
"How did you do that?"
"There she is," the fat gravel-voiced man said casually, walking through the mud behind her, his boots squelching with every step.
"There's my rabbit."
Emily swallowed hard, still intimately aware of the icy sword point digging into her throat.
"Maybe you're right," the tall man said. "Maybe we should enjoy her a bit before we deliver her."
The fat man raised his poisonous sword, the toxic glow of it carving monstrous shadows into his face. He dragged the tip of the blade across the front of her dress, severing threads. The cloth opened, revealing skin. An evil laugh rattled low in his throat. Emily shifted her weight, readying herself to run.
"Don't!"
the tall man warned, pushing harder with the point of his icy sword. A hideous smile peeled across the lips of the fat man.
"I get her first,"
he whispered. All sound stopped. Every raindrop froze in midair, flickering and straining in place as if they still felt the pull of gravity but couldn't heat it. For a moment, Emily thought time had literally stopped. A great boom overhead caught everyone's attention. There was a tremendous whooshing sound followed by cold wind buffeting her face. Despite the sudden wind, the raindrops remained frozen where they hung. Emily's instinct was to flee, but she couldn't move. All she could do was watch. Above, a dark shape tore through the storm clouds, plummeting toward Earth. Great wings beat hard as it landed, sending waves of frozen rain pelting against Emily's face. The two men shielded their eyes with their arms. Emily tried to lift hers to do the same, but she couldn't move. The black beast was serpentine and reeked of death. Torn flesh hung from exposed bones. Gray muscles stretched between rickety limbs. Exposed tendons flexed and pulled as it settled heavily into the mud. Hundreds of tons. One eye socket was dead and empty. The other cupped a clouded, milky eye that swiveled and locked on Emily's beating heart as if it could hear it pounding. A dusty gray tongue slithered out from its long jaws and savored the taste of her fear. She thought,
"I need to run. I need to run, run."
A lone rider draped in a tattered black cowl hunched on the black beast's back. The rider slid slowly to the ground and drifted toward them, dragging its black cloak through the mud. Was it walking or floating? Emily couldn't tell because the cloak was too long, but she didn't see legs moving. Or feet. Did it have feet? The two men sheathed their swords and bowed as they backed away cautiously, giving the cowled rider ample space. The mysterious figure stared at Emily, its face a black hole of infinite darkness that radiated hatred and death. With decrepit sluggishness, a bandaged, mummified hand reached out and pulled a rusted sword from the battered scabbard belted to its waist. It held the brown blade high over its head. Strings of cobwebs clung to it, drifting lazily on currents of air. For a moment, Emily believed it was about to chop her head off. Instead, it leveled the sword at one of the many large blackened trees in the distance. A blurry beam of black energy billowed from the sword like smoke and rippled through the air, wafting toward the tree before swirling around it from top to bottom. Nothing happened. Relief. Emily exhaled heavily. She'd been holding her breath so long, she was ready to pass out. Excuse me. Wood cracked. Bark crunched. The tree began to move, roots pulling out of the dark mud like thick snakes. 10 branches slowly lowered like lumbering arms, twigs twisting into 20-fingered hands. The headless, dead tree thing lurched toward her on 10 crooked roots that coiled and uncoiled, the sound of burnt bark crackling as it crawled. Emily wanted to run, but she was paralyzed, held by dark magic and her own dark fear. The headless tree thing towered in front of her. 2 roots twisted around her ankles and up her legs. 2 branches wrapped around her arms. A 3rd and 4th tightened around her chest and circled her neck, choking her slowly. The bark scraped her skin as it slid, cutting her cheeks and lips.
2 twigs spiraled under the witch's bridle and poked up her nose, surging toward her brain. Emily finally screamed. The tree thing folded all its limbs around her and pulled her into its trunk, muffling her cries. It coiled its way back to where it had been uprooted. It coiled its way back to where it had uprooted itself from the sloppy mud and sank back into the ground where it resumed its original dead form. The cloaked figure sheathed its rusty sword, turned to the 2 men, and spoke the words of a ghost.
"You may collect your reward."
Both men swallowed hard, hiding their unease. The dark figure climbed onto its mount and took to the sky. The men stared at each other, speechless until they were sure the mind wraith was long gone. Both heaved sighs of relief, shrugging off their own tendrils of fear as the rain resumed moving. A lone raven that had sat silently on the branch of a nearby tree suddenly took flight and disappeared into the darkness. Like Emily, it too had been paralyzed by terror until the cowled rider had departed. The men ignored the raven and began their long walk back. Smoky Loki. Who you think that chick was, IRL? Frank the Gank. Probably some slutty rich bitch slumming it up here in-game. Smoky Loki. Does this mean she's dead, IRL? Frank the Gank. No. Mind locked. Like being in a coma until someone logs her out or pulls her neural link off. Smoky Loki. She can't log herself out? Frank the Gank. Nope. Smoky Loki. Sucks to be her. I kind of feel bad. Frank the Gank. What do you care? We just got paid $5,000. We just got paid $5K each in bitcoins for 2 hours work. You know how many hookers I can buy with $5K IRL? Smoky Loki. Not as many as you can buy in-game. Frank the Gank. Ha ha ha. Smoky Loki. What about her? Is she gonna be in a coma forever? Frank the Gank. Forget about her. Far as I'm concerned, that bitch is nothing but ones and zeros. Smoky Loki. More like all zeros now. In-game, both men laughed while they walked. In the real world, it was a different story. Okay, so I like that twist where it's like all fucking super serious, and then you get these 2 knuckleheads chatting. Ha ha ha. 5K IRL. So this is interesting. Thank you. Thank you. That was really interesting. I had a lot of fun with that. I wish the big evil writer guy had more lines. But dude, you nailed that crow caw. Yeah, you know what? I practice that every day. I talk to crows outside. They hang out in my trees. So thank you, Baron, for letting me read a bit of your book on Sound Booth Theater Live here. Oh yes, the crow will get its own character profile. Yeah, so this is available, Reternity Online, available on Amazon in Kindle form right now. A very interesting book, so go check it out. I don't know if it's on sale or not, or if it's on Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, if you want to figure out what else is going on, even if Baron and I do work something out for this one, it's going to be a long while before it's available on audio. So unless Baron finds someone else to get it done earlier, go ahead and check out the Kindle version at least. It is on Kindle Unlimited, so no risk involved. If you have Kindle Unlimited, go check it out. Thanks again, Baron. And now, on to our last request of the day.
Resurgence by Joshua W. Nelson. Before I get started here, I want to remind you guys that if you are watching from Facebook, if you're watching from YouTube, or if you're just tuning in, come on over to the Twitch channel. And if you want a free audiobook, just request it here in the Twitch chat. Follow me first, please. That would be nice, so that you know when the show keeps coming in. But every Wednesday, I give out 5 audiobooks to my audience, whoever requests them. And today, it's all LitRPG books, so anything from Delvers LLC, anything from the Feedback Loop series, anything from Secret of the Old Ones, or, let's see, the Selfless Hero Trilogy, or Sigil Online. Paragons by Jeff Sproul. Those are all available for free from me. I'll give it to you if you request it in the chat. So don't forget to do that. If there's other people that you know that like audiobooks who are not watching, go get them. Tell them to come to the Twitch channel and request a free audiobook so that they can see what my shit is all about. For real. Truffle Guy has requested Super Sales on Superheroes, which will be available in the very, very, very near future. It was submitted to ACX 9 days ago, so any day now. It's been taking the full 2 weeks for things lately, but that's not available yet, no. Any day now. Any day now it'll be out. So just let me know. Let me know what you want. If you get a code, you can save it, you know, till that comes out. But I can't believe how hot that book was when it came out. It's at 500-something ratings, and it's not even been out for... Maybe it's been 2 months now. Insane. I'm so excited for that. So excited for that. So, Resurgence. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to read this and make sure there's no spoilers here. So, Joshua W. Nelson. I don't know if he's here with us or not, but he sent me a doc and some directions here. So, attached is, as far as the character direction, there are 4 main characters in this part and 1 sub-character that is a quest giver, the Merchant. The Merchant would be your routine NPC who would likely sound like a bit downtrodden and overworked, and given the context of the story where this comes from, a bit perturbed. The main characters are as follows. Main character, Alex. Game name, Alex. The story is told through Alex's eyes. He is the de facto leader of the group, although he doesn't really want the job at first. He is the rudder of the group, although not in the moral sense, more about keeping everyone on task. He is both the strategic and tactical brain behind the team, and while he will on rare occasions get involved in the tomfoolery of the others, he mostly lets Dan and Jason engage in the shenanigans. His is the voice of reason. Okay. Dan, game name, The Claw. Dan is the guy you would see in a boardroom full of suits wearing a Hawaiian shirt, flip-flops, and shorts. He would also be the one that A, wouldn't give a fuck if you cared, and B, would be too oblivious in the first place to notice that you cared. Dan and Jason make up most of the book's witty banter, with Dan being the dick and fart jokes kind of guy. Totally seeing the dude in my head right now. Oh, what's up, Josh? While I'm reading these directions, let me know if there's anything like timbral, like tone of voice that you want me to do for Alex. It sounds like you're going to be doing... It sounds like this is first person. Let me look. Yeah, this is first person. Alright, Jason, game name Alistair. In a fantasy world, Jason would be the aristocracy. He speaks with a more practiced vocabulary and grammar, and his witticisms tend toward the more biting one-liners and play of words. He also insists on being called Alistair while in-game. While none of the characters have a British background, you would almost think Jason's character did. Do you want him to have a British accent, then? Wayne, game name Naga. Naga or Nafa? Nafa? Naha. Wayne is the warrior in the group, and plays the game as if there is some code of warrior's honor. He has absolutely no desire to ever be the leader of the group, and is happy to follow the whims of Alex, Dan, and Jason. However, when it comes to protecting the rest of the team or sacrificing to save the team in-game, no amount of orders from Alex or anyone else will keep Wayne from doing the honorable thing. Outside the game, Wayne was a bouncer and plays a 7-foot barbarian in-game. He doesn't tend to say much unless it is about being a warrior. All right. Harji, Naga. All right, this is a dock, so I'm going to do my best here. Maybe I can... Maybe this will be better for me. So I can see better. There we go. No. You're not going to let me zoom any more than that? App? I hate you. I hate you, app. No! Stop it. Let me look at it. It won't let me zoom. There. Alright, so is anybody British? Do you want any of the NPCs to be British? Is this a high fantasy type world? Seems like it would be. And you said Jason is or is not British accent? That's the only thing. Those are the only couple things I need to know. And I gotta come up with a voice for our MC here. We already did. I mean, even for today, we'll differentiate. I don't want to just use my regular voice for the main character. And we can't use Gabriel St. Martin. Jason is not a Brit. Okay, so he's not going to have a British accent, but he's going to act like he's got to stick up his ass. At least. Okay, so... How am I going to do this main character here? I'm really tempted to go with like Jason from Delvers, but I keep using that guy. I use him as Ryuk in Fantasy Online, and as the main character from Paragons. So I gotta stop that shit. That guy's too useful. The merchant asked. I said, hoping that repeating his words would trigger the quest to begin. Alright. I'm going to try a little bit of a higher voice. That one that you just kind of heard me testing out there. Let me know if it doesn't work for you.
Oh, young adventurers. Have you returned to help me with my task?
The merchant asked. Yes, fine, sir. We are here to help you with your task, I said, hoping that repeating his words would trigger the quest to begin. It did.
Excellent. As you know, I am a merchant in Port Town. However, many of my goods come from afar, and I rely on shipments from other towns to supply my goods. Recently, one of my shipments was taken by a bunch of goblins. The deliverer was lost and believed these goblins when they said they could help him arrive at Port Town. The next thing he knew, he woke up on the edge of the forest near the gates. Obviously, he did not have my goods. He said the goblins did not seem like fierce foes, but would have been too much for just him, so he declined to retrieve my wares. If I give you the location of their camp, would you be able to return my wares? I would, of course, reward you handsomely. I am sorry for putting this burden on you, but I have very few other options.
I looked at the guys and raised my eyebrows in question. They all nodded their heads, yes. Of course, fine, sir. We will help you recover your wares, I said. We were surrounded by the golden glow that informed us we had begun a quest, and we started to head out. Just before we stepped out of his shop, the merchant added,
You will likely have to slaughter many goblins before you can recover my goods. I hope you boys have the stomach for that.
We stopped, and Wayne turned back and looked at him and us. The mention of taking it to the mobs had brought the glimmer back into his eyes. Okay, I gotta remind myself who Wayne is. Oh, he's the big one. The big guy. Alright. Oh boy, I gotta zoom again. I gotta get rid of these advertisements again. We stopped, and Wayne turned back and looked at him and us. The mention of taking it to the mobs had brought the glimmer back into his eyes.
I can't.
I'm gonna go back to that one guy I used for Ember earlier.
I can't overstate just how such a thing will be our pleasure, good sir,
he said. We continued out of the shop, and we could hear the merchant rambling as we left.
I still can't believe that delivery boy fell for that. There is no such thing as a trustworthy goblin.
We headed out the main gate and made our way toward the forest. We all had the indicator on our maps that informed us where the camp was, but we could not tell what was between us and there. In fact, with the exception of what I saw around me, my map showed nothing else terrain-wise into the forest. The areas of town where we had been, however, still showed on my map, despite the fact that I could not see those areas at the moment. I took this to mean that once I had been somewhere, my map would update, but new areas would be covered until I ventured into them. This was the same for Wayne and Jason, but not for Dan.
Guess it is part of my unique race-class combination. I seem to be able to see on my map twice as far as I can actually see. This is good for scouting, for sure. I mean, I can see places on my map for the town that we never went to, but are next to those areas we visited.
Dan explained. Wait, what is this? Well, crap.
Wait, what is this? He added. Oh, holy mother of hope! There is a tavern! And taverns have beer. And wenches! Please, 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 Alex, can we go back for just a bit and get some wenches?
You can go see the wenches on your own time, Dan. Now is time for questing and leveling, I replied. Wayne was nodding his head along with Dan until I spoke, and then started shaking it. This made me laugh again. Alright, so how's our main character sounding so far? You see, right? I'm trying to remember, Sin, I'm using your brother's MC from on the hit list.
What is his name?
Can't remember. I don't really like Dan yet.
Guess it is part of my unique race-class combination. I seem to be able to see on my map twice as far as I can actually see. This is good for scouting, for sure. I mean, I can see places on my map for the town that we never went to, but are next to those areas we visited. Wait, what is this? Oh, holy mother of hope, there is a tavern! And taverns have beer! And wenches! Please, 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 Alex, can we go back for just a bit and get some wenches?
There we go, that's... I like Dan a little better there. You sound just a little too high. Not like high, but high. Wayne was nodding his head along with Dan until I spoke, and then started shaking it. This made me laugh again. All right, man, but me and Wayne are totally going to smash that place. When we're done, the ladies will know the claw... Oh, wait. Who is the claw? I thought the claw... Who's the claw? Oh, okay, that's Dan, okay.
All right, man, but me and Wayne are totally going to smash that place. When we are done, The ladies will know the claw."
"More like the pinky," Jason whispered to me.
Dan is the claw.
How do you defend when the Jew, he come at you with the claw?
Have you seen that? Oh my god. Ali G is one of my favorite TV shows to have ever happened. Holy shit. I got a lot of inspiration from that guy. I would have shot water out of my nose if I had been drinking. I laughed so hard. Dan knew the joke was likely about him, but let it pass. I knew he was mentally preparing to get back at Jason at some point, though. This is one of those things that made me love my group. We continued on into the forest toward the indicator on our maps. Dan scouted ahead and made sure we avoided any mobs. We found a clear area where we could likely pull mobs to fight and let Dan go scout ahead to the camp.
"Well, if that isn't a sack of caterpillars," we all heard Dan say. "That isn't a real phrase, Dan. You can't just go making things up," Jason responded. "It's Norwegian, Allie. I wouldn't expect you to know it. What with spending all your time mocking the claw," Dan said. "But seriously, look at the guy I'm targeting right now. He is one of the mobs at the camp."
We all linked to the mob that Dan was targeting, and just like that, we were all laughing out loud. The mob Dan had selected was called a trustworthy goblin.
"No wonder that sap had been conned by the goblins. Poor guy never had a chance."
Excuse me. Where'd it go?
"Poor guy never had a chance," Wayne said, then followed it up with, "Dan, target each of the mobs you can see. According to this, the trustworthy goblin you have selected now is white, so it's our level and will give us experience, which is good."
Oh my god, why is my nose itching so bad? Dan did, and there were 8 white and 7 blue. This would be good experience. After a few seconds, Dan said,
"Incoming one, a trustworthy goblin."
Wayne was ready and was yelling out hits as he took them. Wayne was ready and was yelling out hits as he took them.
"Hit for 65. Hit for 75. Reposted for 64. Make sure you stay behind these mobs so you don't take riposte damage, guys."
After 10 seconds, Wayne was down 250 hit points, and we jumped in. After another 5 seconds, Jason shot Wayne his first heal. With our new weapons, the mob went down fast. I looted the mob and found 4 copper pieces and nothing else. This also was a distinct raise in money compared to the 1 copper the rabbits had. Okay, my nose is driving me nuts. What the hell's going on? Where'd it go? I was a bit shocked at how fast the mob went down and how little trouble we had with it. I wondered if the gear improvements were really making that much of a difference and asked if we could try an experiment.
"Alex, please understand that I say this with the greatest amount of respect. But go eat a dick,"
Wayne said. I was a bit taken aback by Wayne's response.
What the fuck is that for, man?
"Your experiments usually involve me getting my ass handed to me so you can satisfy your curiosity."
That was only that one time, I retorted.
"You've only done one experiment,"
Wayne exclaimed.
Just do it, Wayne.
No. "Just do it, Wayne. None of us will laugh at you this time, I promise." Dan tried to help. "Wait, when were you guys laughing before?" Wayne asked. "It was behind your back, bro. Like good friends always do. Now let's hear what Alex has to say."
Wayne crossed his arms over his chest and said,
"Fine. Let's hear it."
"Okay, first, Wayne, you were right. You aren't going to like this," I said. Before Wayne could object, I added, "I really want to see how much effect gear has on the game. I mean, we tore through that mob pretty easy. I want to know how much effect, I want to know if it's our levels or our gear. I want to know if it's our levels or our gear that is making the difference. So I want you to take off all your gear and put your old warhammer back on and go at the mob when it comes in. I want to see what other level 4s are dealing with when they are... out here fighting. Wayne thought about this for a moment, then said,
"All right. I do see merit in that. I don't like it, but I see the value. Laugh at me, though, and I'm going to punch Dan in the junk."
"Why me?" Dan exclaimed.
"Because you laughed at me,"
Wayne answered truthfully. "But we all did. I wasn't the only one," Dan argued.
"You were the only one dumb enough to admit it. Once Alistair has full mana, let's give Alex his chance to satisfy his morbid curiosity." "Happy now?"
Wayne said. "Definitely," I exclaimed. This may have been the wrong choice of words, as Wayne stopped putting his gear back on and started reaching for his warhammer. "I mean, now we know what gear really does. That gear really does play a big role in the game, so we need to be cognizant of that and upgrade when we can," I said quickly. Wayne held on to the warhammer for a few more seconds before letting it go and saying,
"Agreed."
The one goblin Dan had been able to pull ended up being level 4, but tore through Wayne like paper. It was all Jason could do to keep him healed. Even then, Jason needed to take a couple of hits before Wayne could reestablish aggro on the mob. After Wayne was fully armored, Dan commenced to his pulling duties. "Guys, I was pulling farther back on that last pull, and I spotted a mob closer to the middle. There is a tent-like structure there. I wasn't able to get a target on it, so I couldn't see what the name was. But I am betting that's who has the merchant's goods. What should we do?" Dan asked. We all stopped for a moment. Not because of the information. We all figured something like this would be the case. A boss of the camp. No, what made us all stop was that Dan sounded like a perfectly normal human being for those few seconds. "Guys, stop playing with each other's balls and tell me what you want me to do. It's not fair if I don't get to join too," Dan said. And just like that, the moment of hope had disappeared.
"Relax there, TC. We aren't going to pull it this go-around," Wayne said. "I would like to have full mana and all buffs refreshed before we engage an unknown mob," Jason said. "Agree with Alistair. Let's do another round. But this time, we will get closer so we don't have to pull the mobs as far," I said. "What's the respawn timer on these goblins, Dan?" 10 minutes. We have another 2 minutes before the first one respawns."
"Perfect. This way, we will shorten the time, and we will have time to engage the mob, as long as it doesn't boomerang," I said. Boss fights were often confined to a specific area. If you tried pulling the mob away from its spot, it would boomerang back to its location and usually fully regenerate its health. We were going to try and pull the boss, but if it boomeranged, Wayne would be ready to immediately engage it. "Alex?" "No. I'm Alex." "Who's saying this?" "Wayne, okay."
"Alex, I have an idea. Dan, make sure you only pull 1 on this first round. If we get 2, this won't work. My thought is that if this thing boomerangs, and we know it likely will, we might get a respawn before we finish the fight. If that happens, instead of me tanking both, and really risking Jason's..."
"What? Hold on, sorry. This is bad formatting here. Zoom, please. I hate you, app. There.
If that happens, instead of me tanking both..."
"Come on, Zoom, you fucker. What is going on here?"
"There.
Shit.
And really risking Alistair's mana, we have either you or Dan grab it. You might die, but we will have a better chance of finishing the boss," Wayne explained.
I remembered some of the discussions Wayne and I had about tanking strategies, and I knew I was right about him being a natural tank. Dan stepped up on this one without pause.
"I got that. I will be monitoring the timer, so I will know exactly when it should respawn. I'll hit it from max range with an arrow when it spawns and then take it on a chase. Hopefully, by the time we get back around, you guys will have finished off the bad guy," Dan said. And like that, we were ready to start this next round and make our way to the boss. Someone in programming really does have a sense of humor. One not a trustworthy goblin incoming. One not a trustworthy goblin incoming. Be ready for the boomerang, Dan said. The name of the goblin was Yellow. We all hoped it was 3 levels higher than us and not 4. Excuse me. Just like we believed, the mob boomeranged back into place after only traveling a short distance. Wayne immediately led the charge, screaming at the top of his lungs. "For the glory!" Wayne engaged the mob, and we could all see that this guy was going to be a challenge. He was hitting harder and faster than the other goblins. "Damn! He is hitting me for 100+, and he hits quick. Get ready to engage, guys." We had thought that Jason might be able to do some damage in the beginning, but it became clear he was going to need to start healing quickly. We all jumped in and were doing less damage than we were against the white and blue goblins as well. We were only hitting for 30s and 40s, with Wayne hitting for 60s and 70s. I guessed the mob had around 5,000 or 6,000 HP at the speed his health bar was going down. I got 2 critical strikes in a row for 80 and 87 each, and that turned aggro to me for a brief second. I immediately took 150 damage from one hit. I stopped attacking and let Wayne reacquire aggro again, which happened quickly. A few more seconds, and I probably would have been toast. "Don't heal me," I said. "Didn't plan on it. Now let me concentrate on Naga," Jason replied. For a brief second, Wayne stopped moving, and the mob turned and started running at Jason. Before Wayne could reacquire aggro again, Jason had taken 2 hits, and his health was down to almost 50%. "This thing has a bash and stun. It hadn't landed before. That was the first time. Are you okay, Alistair?" Wayne asked. Just keep hitting it," Jason said. 15 seconds, Dan said. "Moving into position." "Engaging the spawn," Dan said. And just like that, we saw Dan run off into the forest with one of the goblins after him. We had waited 30 seconds between when we killed the first mob and engaged the second one. So as of right now, we had 40 seconds to finish the boss, collect the loot, and get out of the way for the next respawn. The mob had 17% left on its health bar. I kept counting down the seconds and announced we were at 30. I kept counting down the seconds and announced when we were at 30 and 20. "When Alex says 10, I am casting my stun. We will have 3 seconds where the mob's defense will be totally down. This is our only chance," Jason yelled. There was no time to argue, and as I yelled out, "10!" Jason cast his stun. The mob froze in place, and Jason, Wayne, and I ripped into it. Luck was on my side as I scored another double critical strike for almost 200 points total, and the mob fell down. "Loot it, quick!" Wayne yelled. "Looting! Run out of here!" I yelled. As I looted the mob, I saw that it had a sack and a ring. I checked quickly to make sure the rings wouldn't bind on acquisition, and seeing it didn't, I looted it. Then I ran for the trees, where Dan quickly met up with us so we could dispatch the mob he had pulled. I inspected both of the items in my inventory. First, I looked at the bag. The contents of this sack were taken and should be returned to their rightful owner. "Good news, guys! One of the drops was our quest item. There is also a ring with a +1 to strength, constitution, and bash," I said. Unless anyone has any objections, I say we give this ring to Wayne, since he is the only one of us that will get the bash skill." "I don't get that skill until level 6, but I will be happy to have the extra strength, constitution, and armor," Wayne commented. "Are you sure we don't want to give it to Dan? It is a simple ring, and he is our only simpleton," Jason joked. "Funny, Jason," Dan replied. "It's Alistair, damn it." "Not till you start calling me the Claw," Dan replied in a calm voice.
It was always entertaining to watch these two go at it. Dan would respond, each time getting calmer, which just made Jason even more furious.
"The Claw is a stupid name,"
Jason exclaimed. Dan mimicked like he was speaking through a radio.
"Pot, pot, come in, pot. This is Kettle. Someone's black. Over."
I gave Wayne the ring during their banter, and he nodded his head in thanks.
Hey,
Pot and Kettle. Let's kill some more mobs and then Let's kill some more mobs and then go turn in this quest. We probably want to do the camp a few more times before we go in order to get closer to leveling up, I said. Dan looked over at Jason, and as if they hadn't just been going at each other, said,
"Let me know when you're ready to rock, bro, and I will start pulls."
Jason just shook his head. He had stopped asking Dan to stop calling him bro a long time ago.
"Ready now. Pull when ready. All right, amigos. I'm bringing the tacos. You bring the picante,"
Dan said, as he ran back toward the camp of goblins who had now all respawned. As Jason sat down to continue regenerating his mana, I could hear him whisper,
"He's a good puller.
He's a good puller.
He's a good puller. He's a good puller. Just remember, he's a good puller."
Okay, so this one's more like, feels like a buddy comedy. Lots of gamer dialogue going on. I like the way it talks about the dynamics of pulling mobs, and the actual strategy involved in the gaming. You don't get a lot of that in LitRPGs, I don't think. I think a lot of them either go for realism or more action, like you would see in a fantasy novel or a sci-fi novel, where it's like, okay, well, they have hit points and stuff, but the action is the same. Whereas this, it's like the NPCs act like NPCs, and they use the same strategies that people nowadays use in MMOs. So yeah, Joshua, thanks for letting me read your book on Sound Booth Theater Live tonight. If you guys liked what I read there, go on to Amazon, check it out. I believe it's on Unlimited. Is it? So yeah, check out the book. It's actually book 2 is also out. So go give him some love. Go buy his book. And yeah, I think that's all we got for tonight for Sound Booth Theater Live. He said, yeah, it is on Unlimited, so you can go check it out risk-free if you have the Unlimited service. Let's see. I think we only had 2 people request books today. No one wants to take advantage. Fine, whatever, guys. But maybe next time we'll get more people in. Next Wednesday, let me check my schedule. I gotta find my iPad. Don't forget, guys, that oh, Buchamas wants a book. There we go. Don't forget that I'm going to be starting book 4 of the Chaos and the Covenant series next week. So if you haven't checked that series out yet, I highly recommend it. It's so much fun. It's just this very character-driven sci-fi, this close to fantasy. Might as well be sci-fantasy. Very character driven though, so you know I kick ass with it. Ah. All right. So next week I'm working on Kill the Queen, book 4 of Chaos of the Covenant. But next Wednesday, gonna be revisiting some more of Harmon Cooper stuff. Now, and that's because that week I'm either going to be working on Feedback Loop 4, which is Reapers and Repercussions, or I'm working on something else from Harmon Cooper that I'm not going to tell you about. It may be a good idea. I'll talk to Harmon and see if we reveal his next thing next Wednesday. That ought to be fun. I'm not going to tell you anything more, but it's something else from Harmon. We're maybe. I think that's what we'll do, though. We'll see. But next Wednesday, I'm definitely going to have a Sound Booth Theater Live. Same time, 7 p.m. And yeah, just keep an eye out. I'm probably going to announce what exactly we're doing by next Monday. Again, I need to talk to Harmon and see. But he's got a surprise ready for you guys. So, thank you for coming. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for requesting audiobooks. Hey, everyone who requested an audiobook, please say something here at the bottom of the chat so I don't have to go searching to see who asked for it. And I'll get those books to you, and now it's time to go post the replay. Thanks, guys, for coming, and I will see you next Wednesday.